Our mission is to take great stories and characters and bring them to investors and community members and consumers and smash all those together. Many great artists. Snoop is just one of many artists that he's produced alongside of. DJ Khaled, Billy Ray Cyrus, and many more. The one that we can share, as you say, sneak peeks, and is a property called Death Travelers. It is created originally by, as we mentioned, world-renowned music producer Mike Smith in collaboration with the legendary Snoop Dogg. We're removing a lot of the middle system, the studio system, the agents, the managers, and taking the creative IP directly to the consumer.
Dear viewers, welcome to another issue of Stobox Interviews, where we invite industry leaders and rock stars to discuss the hottest projects in the space of tokenizing real-world assets. Today with me, I'm having May and Dana, who are founders of Mintrod, a decentralized autonomous organization created to fund small creators. I have a great admiration for this project because this is such a Web3 thing, crowdfunding for small or medium-sized niche creators instead of consuming content from large corporations. So it's a great pleasure for me to have you here.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, and let's dive right into this discussion. Please tell us more about yourself and Mintrod and some of the first projects you're going to be launching.
Excellent. Thanks, Boris, and thanks for organizing this. I'll start up, and then I'll ask May to add as well. So my name is Dana Landry. Great to be here, alongside of my partner Michael Donovan, who's not with us today, but sends along his best. He and I created Mint Road, what we believe is a revolutionary, I should say, business that is focused on media content creation, but really utilizes blockchain in a unique way that we do not believe is out there. So we're really excited to tell you about that. And we were so lucky to have May join us, and I'll let May introduce himself.
Hey, I'm May. I'm the CTO at Mintrod. I've been in the software engineering space for many years now. And I've been super interested in crypto also for many years. One of the biggest things that I have been looking for in the crypto space are real world use cases and applications. And so I'm super excited that we've found that here at Mintrod.
Definitely. I'm glad to see, especially in the last year, an increased interest in real-world use cases. And though it's currently more focused on more hard assets, such as real estate, we see increased interest to things like IP as well. So you're probably among the pioneers in terms of interesting things that can be done in terms of real-world assets. And before we dive maybe into a bit more pragmatic details, could you please tell us about your mission? Why are you doing Mintrod?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So before we get into the mission, I'll just give you a little bit further background into myself and our partners. And we've been in the business more than 25 years. And one of the things that we've observed is that as a producer content creator, we've only ever to this point had the ability to go B2B, business to business. So we had to sell to individual platforms. And we've always been searching for that opportunity to go directly to the consumer. And that's what's wonderful about blockchain and tokenization. This has allowed us to create this opportunity to go directly to it. And so really what we're doing here is we're creating an environment where a content creator, IP owner can connect directly to the consumer without any middleman. And you'll see throughout this discussion how our platform and the way that we're using the technology eliminates the middleman and allows for that direct access.
Yeah, that was a good answer. And I especially appreciate you providing that background, because usually the most interesting things arise not just when we read something randomly on internet, but when we actually operated in the industry for decades and we see all the pain points and problems created by the current environment. On that point, could you please share about how you see Mint Road fitting into the current landscape of film industry, maybe filling a niche, maybe solving some pressing problems that you see for all parties involved?
Right, exactly. So, as I said in my opening statement, there's sort of the constraint within the IP side of the business is having direct access to capital, and so how we as producers and content creators to this point have solved that problem is we've gone to studios and a lot of middlemen to provide the capital, and then those middlemen form platforms, and then the platforms get to the consumer. What we've created here in Mint Road is an ability to bypass that middle section and go directly. And so how that translates for us is to effectively, for the first time ever, a consumer will have the opportunity to own part of fractionalized ownership of what we're going to say as mainstream commercial IP. There are a number of projects out there today, but they're sort of one-off. What we're doing is a business that can be repeatable, and we've got a first property that we're going to talk to here in a few minutes. But really, the key here is it will allow the consumer the opportunity to own a piece of that commercial IP through tradable tokens. And this is we believe revolutionary for a number of reasons. And really that is kind of our mission. Our mission is to take great stories and characters and bring them to investors and community members and consumers and smash all those together, and so that the fans, in the simplest form, can also not only have the experience of consuming the content and understanding what a brand is and really getting into that fandom, but also can have the economic upside, which really to this point in time, there is really not many direct opportunities where consumers can participate in that way. Sure, you can own a stock in a public media company, and those public media companies obviously go out and produce film and television assets, but you're quite far removed from the ownership, and it's a very complicated, diverse portfolio, which includes many things, many of which then dilute really what you're interested in as a consumer, which might be one individual piece of IP. So we're bypassing all that by creating that opportunity to allow the consumer and the creator to connect directly. And this creates a whole bunch of benefits from both sides of the equation. From a consumer side of the equation, obviously, we think it creates an opportunity for them to take leadership and ownership, but also have an active participation in what gets chosen to be produced, to maybe even some extent, in a minor way, the type of content that gets created. But in any event, we'll be establishing a direct connection to that creator through AMAs and many other opportunities going forward, where we can create that connection point. And then on the creator side, it creates many more opportunities for access to capital. So timeliness of getting what's a constraint in our business, a green light, say, on an individual property, can be massively reduced. You get a direct benefit of connecting directly to the consumer, and you get insights from them. You can through community forums poll community members to understand what it is they like about the show, what characters they like, what stories you might want to tell, and then obviously feeding that back into the writing team and the creative to hopefully have more better stories that connect directly to the fandom. It reduces the time greatly, because in the current system, the time to develop a property can be years. The average feature film, for instance, takes 7 years. The average television show is 3.5 years. This is something that could be done in months. And so, and of course, better economics, as we spoke about, because we're removing a lot of the middle system, the studio system, the agents, the managers, and taking the creative IP directly to the consumer, and all of that, middle economic part that has been toll gated for many, many years, decades, in fact, can be then put into the system. And so that's a better, stronger creator, which is able to then produce more. Also more money into the individual IP, and more money on the screen will result in better content, more fulfilling content for the consumer, and then an opportunity, as we mentioned off the top, for that consumer to participate alongside the creator for an economic benefit. So that's what we're trying to do at Mint Road, and we're excited about it. We've got a first project that I think we're going to speak about in a minute.
Wow, wow, there is so much. This is such a deep answer, and there is so much to unpack. I love how you've been speaking about removing the middleman in order to, first of all, increase the financial benefit for all parties, probably for creators to give less of their capital to that middleman and have more capacity to actually spend money on deploying the project, but also better for investors, because the fund they are providing, instead of being spent on managers and like CEO of private jets and yachts, are actually being spent on producing the things they love. And also about higher control and more feedback, instead of this being intermediated by plans and by risk aversion of large corporations. You get the creator possibility to get many more creative risks, possibility to get something more niche for specific audiences that would be interested, higher control of users for the content that is being created, and thus higher alignment between what consumers want and what creators can deliver. So I see so many benefits deriving from what you're describing. And moving on, it would be great to hear a few examples of what kind of projects you think you would be funding. Not just examples, but also what is the general profile of such projects?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of pieces here. First piece, maybe I'll speak about a couple of the ideas that we have, and then I'll go back to May to maybe ask May to walk through what a consumer will see when they come into Mint Road, and what are the opportunities, and how they can participate in many ways. So from a high level, this is an interesting, what we ultimately want to do here is to use the benefits of Web3 to the fullest extent, and really, that as being a non-technologist, really from my perspective, it's really about decentralization and trying to get as much of the decision making into the community members, who will also be participating as owners. And so in order to do that, we've put in a series of mechanisms within our business plan to leverage that. However, it's a chicken and egg situation in that it's hard to get going. So we have to get going with something. So our first, drop that we're calling it, our inaugural drop, features IP that is created by myself and our team at Island of Misfits, and a team of music industry icons, including Snoop Dogg and a world-renowned producer, Mike Smith. As I mentioned earlier, I have a partner, Michael Donovan, who has an Oscar as well. It should be worthy of noting. And so we feel that we have a great mix between a creative and music powerhouse, and this is us coming together. Mike has produced along many great artists. Snoop is just one of many artists that he's produced alongside of, DJ Khaled, Billy Ray Cyrus, and many more. I think he has produced something like, he has, I think, like 3 billion, I should say, streaming minutes to date, and has a very active monthly catalog. So very relevant. And so we're excited about talking about that. So that's something in the adult side of the equation, more young adult. It's an excellent property called Death Travelers, which we'll speak to. But we also have some things which is leveraging on our experience, and predominantly what I've done in my career is kids and family. And so we do have a couple of family properties, one called Farm on Mars, which is a property that I created or our team created alongside of Keith Chapman, renowned kids producer who produced and created shows like Bob the Builder and Paw Patrol, who has a tremendous track record of success. And so our key fundamental here really will be to leverage talent and enable that talent to have all of the benefits that we spoke about earlier. More money, better economics, more money on the screen, more flexibility, less interference. All those things are going to be quite appealing. And as a result, a lot of the individual producers that we've spoken about, the first two examples that I just gave you, are very eager to engage in this. And so we do feel like there's many, many, many more to come. This is just sort of the first few that are scratching the surface, but we're really looking forward to getting rolling and getting everything launched. And maybe I'll pause there and hand it over to May to just give us a little bit of insight on what a user will see when they come into Mint Road.
Yeah. So yeah, when a community member visits our Mint Road DAO site, if there is an active proposal, they'll be met with a proposal, which is kind of like a basket of content submissions from various creators. So these can be TV shows, movies, and anything in between. And so the community member would then connect their wallet, purchase our DAO tokens. And that would give them the ability to then vote on which piece of content they want to see ultimately become funded by the DAO. So it's worth noting that these tokens aren't consumed in the process of voting. It simply determines your voting power. So a user would then go cast their vote for the project that they like the most. This proposal window may last maybe like 2 weeks, a month, some predetermined amount of time, at which point we would collect all of the votes, tally them up, and then the winning IP would then be selected for funding. So at this point, we would then tokenize that project and offer it as a token offering for potential investors to come and purchase the royalty token. In purchasing the royalty token, a user would, have all the benefits of the success of the film, enjoy profits from the overall ROI, and that's the overall flow in a nutshell.
That sounds like a simple and intuitive flow with no things that will complicate it and make it really clear to users what they are doing. And I love that we can participate together with you in making this happen from the tokenization and from the technology perspective. And it's really an honor to support a project like that. Backtracking a bit to what Dana mentioned, I love that even in the first project you have involvement of pretty large scale stars. What it proves is that it isn't something that only small guys need. This is what industry needs at large. And this is really fascinating. May, it would be, or Dana, who is probably best to reply that question, it would be good to hear from you. Why did you choose to do it on blockchain? Like, I can imagine an implementation that doesn't use blockchain or tokenization. So what do you see as the key benefits of using the technology?
Yeah, this is a great question. And this is a question that we ask ourselves, each and every day, because there is one school of thought that what we're doing on the media side of things could be done in the world of Web 2. But we really are quite passionate about the fact that, knowing blockchain as we do, and May, we believe May is an expert, and I'm learning to be one. But our deep knowledge of blockchain and really, which, one of the huge benefits of blockchain, as I see it, as being a non-technologist, is creating, again, going back to decentralization, an automated way for distributing, for instance, commercial arrangements. And I know there's many applications around the world. People are looking at mortgages and all sorts of businesses of how this can apply. But in media, it's very important to understand one of the real challenges is that because of the way the system has worked, and there are many layers, studios and agents and managers, there's all of these manual processes of collecting dollars in and waterfalls and who gets what and when, which makes it very confusing, opaque, quite frankly. And it's always been a huge frustration from creators and IP. And really, I come at this, it's important to know, as an IP creator. I've produced more than 100 television shows and been involved with many films as well, and been in the business for 25 years. And a huge, source of frustration is the fact that you go and you work yourself, your blood, sweat, and tears on a particular piece of creative property, working with an audience, working with a consumer base to mold it into something that really works, and you get that one in whatever number that really connects to an audience and a consumer base, but yet you do not get the just rewards. And many people that have just come along and taken your ideas and opportunities and sort of leverage them, and distribute them and all those things, and there's a place for that, but really taking the vast majority of the economics. So if you look at a typical show, even for the greatest of producers out there, the most they might get is 10% of the economics of any one property, and the remaining 90% is really the entire rest of the system. So that opacity, that quite frankly, those bad deals, all of those things create frustrations from a creative perspective. And so everyone has always been looking for an opportunity to go direct. And so that's what the beauty of blockchain is. And I'll turn to May to go through kind of more specifically the reasons why we believe tokenization is a great application and the benefits specifically for our project. But as a general, that's where the frustration and opportunity becomes, because if you can create something that is much more transparent, a better deal for the creator, and simple to distribute through the form of a smart contract, and when the dollars come in, there's no Hollywood accounting. It just goes to it gets distributed based on how the smart contract is laid out. That's all that anyone ever really would like. And so in this instance, we believe tokenization is one of the most perfect applications. And I'll turn it to May to give some of the technology benefits as well.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And to add to that, distribution of profits, or just everything is just handled completely automated using smart contracts in a decentralized way. So there's, like Dana was saying, there's no funny accounting in the middle. Another massive benefit is the accessibility. So typically in traditional markets, these opportunities to fund film and TV projects and enjoy in the benefits of that, they're exclusively available to larger institutions, production houses, distributors. Now we're putting that ability to invest in the hands of smaller accredited investors, which is, as far as I understand, not ever been done before in traditional methods. So that's one of the major benefits of tokenization and having this on the blockchain. Another major benefit is the liquidity and the ability for investors to trade on secondary markets. So these tokens can be traded on decentralized exchanges, potentially in the future centralized exchanges, which just overall enhances the amount of liquidity available to investors. And also, it's just the connection with fans, the ability for fans to directly engage with a particular project that they're super excited about, and be able to engage with that directly one-on-one without having to go through, like Dana mentioned earlier, investing in like a much larger company where that IP is just a small piece of the portfolio. Now you can go directly to that one piece that you're interested in. So yeah, there's a multitude of benefits. but it definitely feels like tokenization and blockchain is the way to go for a project like this.
I'm glad that you mentioned liquidity. It definitely takes some time for revenue to accrue, even if these projects in the long term are extremely financially attractive. And sometimes it may take time until the project is produced, until it is monetized and distributed properly. And for investors, having liquidity protects them from having to wait for a decade potentially to get the financial return. And especially even the mere fact that the project moved to the next stage of shooting by increasing the confidence in the project's success, especially if you see the great shooting sets, the great trailer videos, etc. This is often by itself enough to increase the value of the token and already delivers benefits to early investors, which they now can monetize because these tokens are tradable and can be sold. So this is often underappreciated, but such an important benefit of blockchain, and I'm glad you mentioned this. And you have an intention to work on creating liquidity for your investors. And I'd like to now move on to discussing maybe in more specifics some of the projects you mentioned, such as Death Travelers or others. So if you could, I know that some of this might potentially be private, but among the things that you can share, I would be very grateful for hearing what you can share with the audience. Some sneak peeks.
Yeah, so I mean, the one that we can share, as you say, sneak peeks, and is a property called Death Travelers. It is a show. I mean, again, I think the highlight really is an opportunity to own equity in what we believe to be a mainstream television series that we will also look to distribute in the Web2 world alongside at some point in time. But it really allowed us, the community member, to own and participate, as we discussed, in the equity of that series. It is created originally by, as we mentioned, world-renowned music producer Mike Smith and the highly accomplished studio Island of Misfits, which I own and operate, in collaboration with the legendary Snoop Dogg. The key thing when we say, as an investor, you have an opportunity to participate, it's really along all streams of revenue. So this would include potentially, obviously, from the IP and any television opportunities, but music sales, music publishing, and ultimately merchandising and licensing. I think it's really important that you mentioned that these things take time, and I think that one of the most critical things that we've tried to do when we've trying to apply our project into blockchain is to really bring some credibility and into this whole world, because and we often hear the word utility. Well, the best ability for us to deliver utility is to deliver something that generates revenue over a long period of time, hopefully grows at a nice steady pace, and has the ability to live on forever. A number of properties, for instance, that I've been involved in the past have lasted decades. And so this really creates a really stable, consistent revenue stream. And media over time has been, although it's cyclical, it goes up and down over time. New platforms, new technologies emerge, which give you opportunities. So it's really a very exciting opportunity. But just getting into it a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of the headlines. So it's really, the story is about two washed up music producers called Neo and Smith, and they're looking for their big break. And along the way of producing, they produced this mixtape, which has a track on it that has basically a meaning to the universe. And what they forget is that they left it with Smith's ex-girlfriend, Erica. So lo and behold, they come across this memory. Mike remembers, and he decides that they're going to go and pay Erica a visit. When they do that, Erica isn't there; she's missing, and they realize that she's actually a death traveler, and they find this out through a hologram character called SD, played by Snoop Dogg, which is an artificial intelligence hologram that comes up out of a really cool 1970s Trans Am, white Trans Am, and reveals that, in fact, that Eric is a death traveler and is missing in the afterspace. This is the space that it's a realm that encompasses all version of the afterlife, including Hades, Valhalla, the Egyptian land of the dead, things like this. And so her role as a death traveler alongside SD is to push back against the tide of runaway souls that have slipped out of the crumbling afterlife and back into the land of the living. And so our series sort of takes our two main characters on a journey. The concept is that each episode there will be a new artist that is involved, and that new artist will perform an original track that we will release alongside of the television episode as well. And we will do this over the arc of what we currently have planned is 3 seasons of 8 episodes each. So a potential for 24 interesting stories, new artists. Some will repeat, like Snoop will probably have a obviously recurring role, but there's many artists that we've looked at signing up here. We've had conversations with Pink, with RZA, and a number of other really high-profile artists who are interested in participating. And it's really exciting because, although there are shows that, television shows that have a musicality to them or a strong musical presence, I do not believe there's been one created to this point which has the opportunity to participate alongside in the way that we're doing, but also ties the music directly and released into alongside of the television episodes as well. So, sort of groundbreaking, we think, on multiple layers. So obviously high profile, a lot of great acts that are included that have already signed up and that we're really looking forward to getting out there. That's our first one, our inaugural drop. I think we can include some in the link below, Borys. We can include some images to whet the appetite of our audience here today to get a bit of a sneak peek into some of the images that we have created. This is an animated show that we're proposing, which lends itself to the fantasy and all of those things in an affordable way, and create some really interesting opportunities for us to see these artists in a different format. That's Death Travelers. I think we talked about how we would expect that this would be a series that would hopefully last many years and have many revenue opportunities. And really, that's really the headline here. Each one of the projects that, pardon me, just let me get repositioned here, that we're looking to launch, obviously, we believe, first of all, to be multiple genre over some for older content, some for younger, and a nice mix. But the idea is to have them be long-term businesses in and of themselves and be more than just projects. And I think that's one of the things that is in some ways the current weakness in the Web3 world. There's many people using tokenization for just one individual project, which is kind of a one and done, produce this one thing and then it goes away, and then the utility, where do you get that? And so we believe in order to build that, you've got to build the brand. In order to build the brand, you have to have a whole series of a plan over multiple years and a multiple way in order to execute. So that's Death Travelers. I don't know if you have any follow-up questions on that one.
Oh my gosh, that is such an evocative concept. I'm a huge sucker for fantasy, for sci-fi. So having this all together just immediately invokes my attention and interest. And for the viewers, this is actually me first time hearing about this as well as you. So this is mostly my live reaction to hearing about the concept, and I enjoy it a lot. And I like that this isn't just about the plot, that you have an interpersonal conflict at the heart of it. So this would be attractive to different kinds of audiences. And there is, in the words of George R.R. Martin, there is a human heart in the conflict with itself, which is what all stories eventually should be about. So I really like the concept. And it does sound to me like investing in Star Wars in the 70s, when only the first movie came out, like at the beginning of something very big. If you have small children, you can invest in it now and put it in an escrow account, and then give it to your kid when they turn 18. And this is like building almost a generational wealth by investing in such kind of early projects. And I also like that you mentioned about brand and about building on multiple projects, because this is the issue, especially with early Web3 projects. If you do something on a one and done basis, you don't have an incentive to build reputation, to have high integrity, and there is much higher risk in such projects. If you know that there is long-term intention behind this, that there are contracts signed, etc., then you have much higher reason to believe that project has incentives to do well. One last point, which I couldn't help but notice, is that by inviting a different star at each episode, you're getting yourself additional marketing, because each of them is incentivized to share more broad information about the season. And this obviously increases my own belief in that this is going to be a commercially attractive endeavor, because at the end of the day, probably many viewers who are listening to this are prospective or interested investors, and they would be asking questions about financial feasibility of this project. And this is, I know our time is coming to end, but this is probably a point which I would appreciate if you could elaborate on more with Death Travelers and other projects of a similar profile that you're going to fund on Mint Road. What are the reasons to believe that they are going to be, or a majority of them are going to be, a financial success?
Yeah, this is a great question. I mean, I think it ties into everything, really. It ties into the whole strategy of how we, to this point in time in our career and everything that we've done, is to really try to focus on things that an idea or a concept that can move from just an idea or a concept to then a television show to then a brand. And that's really when you cross over into that zeitgeist where everyone knows what that is, that really creates the opportunity to have multiple streams of revenue over long periods of time. So it's a little bit of, but there's two points to them. One is marketing on that, and we'll speak a little bit about that. And the second one is also, how from a creator's perspective, how you go about that. From a marketing perspective, obviously, you hit the nail on the head when you spoke about it earlier. The idea is to create partnerships with creators that bring their own community to this, and because they are going to be heavily incentivized and monetized to bring that community on, there will be a self-promotion that comes alongside it. They will X about it. They will put it on their social media. They will use whatever opportunities they can to get the word out about these properties. They'll go on the community forums. They'll speak to the community members, because they'll want these properties to succeed. Because at the end of the day, creators, an individual concept is their baby, and that's really what they ultimately want to have happen, and want their baby to be seen by the world and have the applause and the eyes on it. And so that really, this sort of unlocks it. And so it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have great creators that have good community members that are motivated and interested, they bring those community members to it. Those communities come in, they feel more of a part of it, more direct access through our site to be able to interact, to be able to vote, to be able to participate. And as you said, the huge benefit here is really I'm kind of seeing this as kind of many people go out and they have ways that they flex. Some people drive cars, some people have watches, some people buy mansions, but many people in the younger world are participating through crypto, and they're looking at those as key parts of their portfolio going forward. And yet they still also, if they have successful enough, they have a stock portfolio over here. But those two things are always at different sides. This is a way to really merge those two things. You can take the opportunity of sound business planning, execution, long-term growth over time, building a brand and participating through the participation of the token, but also scratch the itch from being a fan of being part of something. Why is it that people go and fund these projects in crowdsourcing? Well, because a lot of it is they just want to see the latest from whoever Steven Spielberg movie or whatever it might be. And so you get a real opportunity to scratch both of that itch, and you get to participate, in a community forum and ongoing drops and rollouts and involvements and all sorts of interesting opportunities that we're going to have going forward to connect to the creators, which it's just going to be in a much more meaningful way. And we feel that both sides will really love this. The creators will love this because they'll be able to talk to their community members, because that's really what they would like to do. They want to see how their content is impacting. And so it's really, we think a very powerful, from all sides. Those are the things that really excite us and allow us to be confident that that long-term plan will be successful. Now, will every project hit it out of the park? Obviously, one can never predict. And anyone that tells you that they can predict what is going to be a hit or not really is full of what. However, having been in the industry for long periods of time, what I've observed is that it's rooted on talent. If you start with talent as a core and you give capital to talent, in time that talent will create meaningful content, which can become television shows, which can become brands, and then ultimately can have long-term portfolio life opportunities. And that's really an interesting opportunity segueing back into Mint Road, because you'll be able to participate, yes, on the individual piece of IPs and participating, say, in the Death Travelers drop and own a piece of that, but you'll also be able to participate on the Mint Road side of the equation, which gives you a more portfolio of approach. If you feel like you don't necessarily have enough insight into any one project, because a key part of our platform is Mint Road will also be participating in each and every one of the drops, through ownership and various ways. So it gives you kind of a nice diversification play, which we think in the long run can ultimately have some great returns. And we're large token holders and we'll be token holders ourselves, so we'll be obviously incentivized to keep that aligned and as best possible, and look forward to great success.
I loved it so much when you said about talent being the key, especially in creative endeavors, and empowering talent with capital is as your key mission, as the purpose of this business. This is truly beautiful, and I'm glad to see. I see that this is not coming just from like a random place in the internet. This is coming from experience, from being there and seeing what works and what doesn't. And it's a great pleasure for me to support this coming to fruition. Dana, I probably could speak to you for many hours about all the details and minutiae, but we probably have to wrap up. I'm grateful to you so much for joining me today. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. I appreciate you giving us a few sneak peeks on the content. That was so good. And I really hope to see this coming to fruition and being successful. So before you go, please let us know how can people who are interested in watching you or maybe even investing, how they can connect and look for your progress.
Yeah, I'll let May answer that question. But before we wrap up, I do want to just, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank you, Borys, and the hardworking team at Stobox. It's been a great collaboration. I know we're just getting started. We look forward to many, many years, and hopefully at some point you'll be talking about us to being one of your more successful partnerships, and many, many years later. So look forward to great success together. May, if you can let the viewers know how to get in touch.
For sure. Yeah, so you can connect with us via our Mint Road or Death Travelers sites. So our contact form and our emails will be on the bottom of each site in the footer. Borys, I'll give you those links, and if you can drop those in the description, then the viewers will be able to get in touch with us.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you again for joining us. And to all the viewers, please don't forget to like this video if you found it enjoyable and interesting, insightful, or even just mildly entertaining. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to watch other industry analysis we do, discussions of the details of the tokenization project, and how do you actually do all the nuances, and how do you do something similar to what May and Dana are doing. Other interviews with amazing clients we are having, and lots and lots of good content. Thank you for joining, and see you in the next episode.